What was the lowest point?
Getting shot. I think Moses is a better boxer than Mike Tyson. That is the biggest selling boxing event in the world. And the last one was one of the most exciting heavyweight fights I've ever attended. It's really simple with Tyson, it's all about money. He wants to fight in April and he wants to fight again in the summer. We're not going to sit around waiting for things to happen. We'll make them happen. He can be dangerous at any second in a fight. It only takes a second. I had a truckload of money in there. I'd signed a deal with a bank. Got shot, and obviously they were all like, what's all that about? And they all disappeared. A few of the rats jumped ship.
So you discharged yourself from hospital after being shot?
Yeah, 6 or 7 days after it.
It weren't a skim either, was it?
Yeah, it hit me there.
Welcome to Clubhouse Boxing. I am Spencer Oliver, and today you guys are in for a treat because we are down at the Queensberry headquarters with the one and only Mr. Frank Moran. Frank, thanks for inviting us down.
It's a pleasure, mate. Good to see you.
Yeah, brilliant to be here, mate. And we're in the ballroom now. There must have been a lot of meetings, a lot of heated debates going on in here.
Yeah, I mean, over the years, been lots of it, but most of the deals are in restaurants.
Never had to pin anyone up against the wall in here or anything like that?
I don't do things like that. A bit too old for that, mate.
Brilliant. Well, listen, look, Frank, let's get into it. I want to talk a little bit about the history that you got on the walls in here and in your office as well, but we'll do that a little bit later on. But right now, let's talk about Moses Itauma. Breaking news yesterday that he is out for injury, delayed until March the 28th. Can you give us any information on that?
Yeah, very unfortunate. He's torn a bicep muscle, and he was giving it a rest, and the feeling was it would be okay, but he went and had another MRI on it, and it's torn, and specialists have said that it's impossible for him to fight, and we're not going to let him fight if he's not ready to, and so it's unfortunate it's been postponed. The whole Magnificent Seven show, which was a great show. And we were nigh on sold out in Manchester with it. So, it'd be pushed back, which is a shame for the fighters. A lot of fighters are trained obviously over the Christmas and so forth, but we had no alternative.
That's the tough side of boxing, isn't it? I saw a picture posted, actually, Nathan Heaney posted a picture of him holding tickets that I probably wouldn't even be able to carry, like 2,000 odd tickets that he'd sold. What happens with a boxer in that sort of position, Frank? Is it a case of everyone getting their money returned, or is it just?
Well, it's up to the fans, isn't it? They're either going to go for the new date or not. They have the option of returning their tickets and getting a refund, or keeping them and coming to the show. That's where we are. There's nothing we can do about it. That's the shame of it all. Moses was heading up the show. Him and Franklin was a really cracking fight that everybody was looking forward to. And it's too late for us to replace that fight. And, as I say, it was a Magnificent Seven. So, unfortunately, that was the decision that was made. And we are where we are. But we'll look after the fighters and make sure that, if any of them are struggling for money and that, we'll tide them over. Right, brilliant.
Listen, you're great at spotting talent, especially heavyweight talent. We'll get into all the heavyweights that you've got in a bit. But Moses Itauma, is exceptional. Just how good do you think he is? When they're doing comparisons to a young Mike Tyson, is that a reality? Is he really that good? Could he be that big?
I can only say as what I've seen, with my eyes and over the years and my experience, at his age, he's just turned 21, but his age and what he's done, he's probably the best I've been involved with. And, from scratch. And I look at Naz, who was also very young, Ricky Hatton, both of them turned pro when they were 18. And I look at them, but I just feel that, with what he's done and the calibre of opposition that he's fought against, he's done tremendously well. It's probably at this stage the game out of him and Naz, but I just feel that he's the guy at the moment. And as regarding the comparison with Mike Tyson, again, Mike turned pro at a very young age, very exciting, like Moses. And for heavyweights, it's very unusual for them to be young men, young as that, turning pro. Normally they're much older. I mean, I think, what was AJ, 24 when he turned?
Yeah.
When he turned over. I look at a lot of the heavyweights, they're in their 20s. I mean, Joe Joyce was in his 30s, wasn't he, when he won his gold medal, his silver medal in the games. And you look at that and, he's done something extremely, extremely unusual. And the comparison with Mike Tyson, I think, is there. And the reason I say that, because I think the quality of the opposition he's fought at his age is a little bit better than what Mike had fought at the same stage.
Yeah, I think Tyson had like something like 20 odd opponents in the first year, didn't he? But like that, they were not particularly of any
Yeah,
sort
but
of
he was
calibre.
busy, and you're in the
In different
gym and you're
eras.
working, and you know, and it's about getting out there, and it's, you know, of course it's doing the business in the ring, but it's being in the gym and learning your trade. And what he done was phenomenal, and you know, it's good matchmaking, and he was, you know, building his confidence in the ring and letting him do what he does. And Moses is the same, but I think Moses is a better boxer than Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, great head movement, you know, shots, very short shots, great, you know, his footwork, he could step to the side, you know, he was all over you. He didn't give you any room. Really good shots, great leverage, good uppercuts, hooks, and Moses is the same.
Here's one for you. So we had Mike Tyson was a 20-year-old world heavyweight champion, the youngest ever to do it. I think Muhammad Ali was 22. Floyd Patterson, 23. So Moses is going to fall in that sort of bracket. If he achieves what we think he's going to achieve, and that is to become a world champion, do you think he does it in 2026?
I think he can. It's a big test for him, this fight with Jermaine.
Yeah.
You know, Jermaine's never been stopped. He's had 27 fights, and I think it's 4 years ago he fought AJ. He was a good AJ 4 years ago. And AJ couldn't stop him, and we know how powerful a puncher he is. The fight he had against Dillian Whyte, there weren't a lot in it, and some people favoured Jermaine in that fight. He's had double the amount of fights, more than double the amount of fights that Moses had. It's going to be a big test for him. If he comes through that, which I hope he will, and I believe he can, he comes through that, then, you know, that's what we've got to be looking at. We're looking by the end of the year that he has fought for a world title.
I mean, you're in a great position with the heavyweights right now because you've got most of them tied up. Most of them under your Queensberry banner. So these fights will be easier to make, you know, and it's about picking the right fights at the right time. Now, you know, we've seen Tyson Fury is now making a comeback, which is great news, I think, for the heavyweight division. We need that character, that charisma still there. You know, what is the roadmap for Tyson? You know, when are you looking at seeing him back in the ring? And where does he, you know, what is that direction? Have you had that conversation with him where he wants to go?
It's, you know, the conversation has been that he wants to fight in April, and he wants to fight again in the summer, and that's the roadmap for him. It's all about, it's really simple with Tyson. It's all about money.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. And, you know, the Saudis have indicated that the fights that they want, they're talking about the AJ fight. Unfortunately, a terrible tragedy that AJ was involved in, where he lost his two mates and also guys who were involved in his training team. That's going to hit him mentally, really, really hard mentally. And I don't know, you know, where he's going to fight, or if he's going to be ready to fight. So we'll see what happens. But that was what the roadmap was. But it's with Tyson, it's all about agreeing the money. But AJ, I can't speak for. I don't know what AJ is going to do.
Yeah, it's a difficult
and
situation.
No one should be pressuring him anyway. You know, whatever he chooses to do, he'd choose and do in his own time.
Yeah, it's going to be, like you say, mentally more than physically for Anthony Joshua is to see where he lands. And
well, you know him better than anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we wish him all the best, and condolences obviously to the families that lost, you know, these two great men.
More important than boxing, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So that was the fight that we were all thinking that we were going to get, and we thought we were closer than ever with that with Tyson Fury. But now the sort of direction was slightly changed. And I know with Tyson, he wants to come back and he wants that world title. He wants the Alexander Usyk fight again. You've got Fabio Wardley. He's just had a great win over Joseph Parker. Unbelievable. Against all the odds. I love Fabio because he's one of those guys that everyone seems to go against, and he sort of feeds off that, and he comes back and he delivers these performances. He's now the guy with the target on the back. I mean, it was a brilliant performance there, Frank. And he's got to be a danger for any heavyweight out there, surely.
Well, he is a danger for any heavyweight because he's got something that they haven't, what a lot of them haven't got. He's got an equaliser. And what he says is really true. You know, he can be dangerous at any second in a fight. It only takes a second for him to let that shot go. He can be a mile behind, as he was against Hooney, and turn the fight on its arse with one shot, which is what he did. The fight he had against Joe Parker. I mean, Joe was in front on the cards, but he suddenly turned that fight round in a massive way, and you've got to really respect him for what he's done. I mean, no amateur experience whatsoever. Learning on the job, and he went in his last fight against a guy that was considered to be the number 2 heavyweight in the world, active heavyweight in the world, in Joe Parker, and done a job.
Now, you've been in the game 50 odd years. It's incredible. I was looking at your first promotion back in 24. We'll catch up on that in a little bit as well. But I want to talk about the character of Fabio Wardley, because I haven't seen it often where fighters, we've seen him coming from behind, like Cole Fox was one that sort of stands out in my mind as well, where you go, he doesn't lose heart, he doesn't lose that will to win, he's got that equaliser, and that makes them a danger for anyone, because like you say, he can be 11 rounds behind and somehow he's finding that mental strength to stay in there, and a lot of fighters, they lose that spirit, don't they?
Well, he's a fighting man. I mean, he is. You cut him in half and it'll say fight. That's what he is. He's no amateur experience. Cole had masses of amateur
World
experience.
amateur champion, yeah.
No amateur experience whatsoever. Just got in there and learnt on the job and done it in a magnificent way. And he deserves the utmost respect for that. And he fears no one.
I saw a post actually, Fabio, I don't know if it was Fabio Wardley that put it out. In 2015, there was a picture of him sitting behind a desk like we are now with a phone in his hand, with no boxing experience at all. Don't think he'd even been in a boxing ring. Yeah. And Tyson Fury was world champion. He just won the world title. Anthony Joshua was sort of British, I think British and Commonwealth were world champion as well. And you think about that progress, and it's like, that's sort of unheard of, isn't it?
Of course it is. It's just it is a say a fairy story, but a Cinderella story. That's exactly what it is. And he's such a nice guy, lovely fella to work with. You know, I fight him. How much am I getting paid? See you on the night, and that's it.
When do we see him in the ring again?
I think he'll be in April.
In April?
Yeah.
Have we got any sort of opponents?
Not well. We've got a couple of things in mind, but I can't get into that at the moment. But it's going to be a big fight, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
It will be a world title fight. That's what it'll be.
Of course. But listen, there's a number of guys in line for that, and you've got them.
There's no easy jobs in the heavyweight division.
Not right now. No.
You look at over the last few years. You look at the people have been written off, have come back. The ones it's just been amazing. Look at like Zhang, he's got beat, then he's come back. You look at this one's got beat, come back. You look at what's happened with AJ against Daniel Dubois, then Dubois against Usyk. It's just these guys. These guys are always a danger, and they got great belief. He'll be coming back as well, Daniel Dubois.
That's because the politics seems to have now gone out of boxing. Where we had that before with different promotions, different networks, 60-40 splits and all of that, it seems to be under one umbrella now, and you guys are working together. It's a changing of the times, Frank. It's never sort of really happened, isn't it? Because you've always sort of been enemies in many ways. You promoters.
Competitors.
That's the word.
Competitors, and that's it. But what's happened? We're still competitors. There's no change. There's still competitors, and there's still fights. But we're all working with the same network, with the Zone, which makes things easy. And they want fights delivered, and we're all sensible people. But for us, most of the fights that we make are with our own fighters that we're promoting.
Yeah,
especially in the heavyweight division. It's not very difficult to do.
Boxing back in Germany at the weekend.
Well, we took it back there.
Agit Kabayel. Frank, firstly, I've been going to Germany doing fights out there. We had David Hay versus Klitschko in a massive stadium fight. I don't think I've ever seen an atmosphere like that. Where did that come from? Like, it's not sort of like culturally not their sort of style, but it was like that show was in England, but it was out in Germany.
Yeah. There's always been a tremendous audience for boxing in Germany. I'll go back long before the fights you've mentioned. Go back to Salons and Peter Cole, Universum, taking fighters out there regularly. I remember taking Joe Kawasaki out there, taking loads of fighters over the years. Ricky Hatton, all of them. They've all. We've done loads of fights. Lots of British fighters gone and fought. When Germany had quite a few world champions and fighters such as the Klitschko's basing themselves in Germany at that time under the Universum umbrella. And there was always well attended, big shows, big shows. And there hasn't been anything out there for a long time. And we promised Agit that we would do a show out there. And I really did feel it would do well, but not as well as it did do. It sold out in a day and a half. Tickets went like that. Yeah,
I was speaking to Emma when we come in the office. She's saying like
we should have doubled it up. Yeah, we could have easily done that, but that's all very well being wise over the event. I'm pleased it's sold out, which bodes well for the next one. And everybody who's been out there, people who've been in boxing for a long time, who work for Queensberry. My son George, who's been he's been around a long time now in boxing. He said himself, he said it's the best atmosphere that he's ever been in boxing. And when you look at some of the shows that we put on, I mean, like I'm looking at old Tyson up there,
incredible.
You know, at Wembley. That was
what was that one?
That was Tyson again. That was the biggest selling event to ever take place at Wembley.
And it says to Frank, aka the Magic Man. Thanks for everything. We made it, baby. Legend, all the best. The Gypsy King. Brilliant.
That was when he fought Dillian White, which we sold out. I think it sold out in less than whatever it was, a day. Online, I think they were in line for tickets. There was something like nearly 400,000 people queuing for tickets. Sold out. Press conference, Dillian didn't show up even for the press conference.
Yeah, I remember us working
sold
that,
out, done, and it was an unbelievable event. The highest grossing event to ever take place at Wembley.
That's the sort of power that Tyson Fury has. Like, when you're looking at these Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, and they, for the last 10 years really been dominating that heavyweight division and big characters of the sport. You've got your new generation coming through. Agit Kabayel is going to get his opportunities soon. What's going on with Alexander Usyk? Is he going to have to vacate? Where are we at with that?
Well, he's got 3 belts still, and he's going to have to make mandatories. And if he doesn't make the mandatories, he'll either vacate or be stripped.
Yeah,
that's his choice, and I hope he doesn't. I hope he does make his mandatories. It's a shame he didn't fight Fabio because we would have liked that fight. I mean, you think last year when we did the fight with him and Daniel Dubois, that is the biggest selling boxing event in the world. More people went to that show, live attendance, than any show in the world.
Wow.
Boxing.
Wow.
Last year.
Yeah.
Queensberry show.
Yeah. Incredible.
What we did there. So that tells you, as you say, the drawing power of the heavyweights, the drawing power of the sport at the moment. The sport's in a really, really good place.
Why is boxing? Why do you think boxing has sort of transformed itself in many ways? Because it's always been a sort of niche market. Going back to Sky days when we had like main events were always at York Hall, and they were sort of like that was.
Yeah, but they were smaller events.
But I'm saying, but why? How have you captured the market? Because you've been in it a long time, Frank, and you've got to recognise, the way that the game changes in many ways, but you sort of captured the market now where people are invested.
That was before Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
They broke the box office record.
So you think it's the characters as opposed to...
I think it's the fighters. I think Saudi's been a brilliant thing for it because it was a catalyst for us working together, like the 5v5, some of the fights that were on here, the money that they were putting into the sport, as HE was putting in. It changed the sport in a big way, But we carried on, and we're still evolving. Like Germany, we're in Germany. Belfast just announced our show in Belfast went on sale yesterday. You've got less than 1,000 tickets left, like that.
Yeah.
Germany sold out, down half, like that.
Mainstream boxing's become so mainstream now.
It's selling, and it's selling for a reason because people want to see it. At its best, it is the best. It's the best sport. It's one-on-one. Two best against each other. There's nothing like it in any other sport because the outcome of it is you can't play next week if it's a football match or a tennis match or a golf match. You get beat, you can be done. Your career can be over. That's the sport. That's what this sport is, the ultimate sport. Clubhouse Boxing is powered by our friends at Betway. For exclusive acquisition offers, free bets and much, much more, download the Betway app today. Tyson Fury's now said that he's coming back. You've said like April time that will be, whether that's a Makhmedov type of sort of opponent, and that's a good test if that is the opponent, by the way. You look at that and go, all right, because he's got to test himself, see what he's got left. He comes through that fight, Frank. Would he go straight back in for a world title shot then, whoever that may be against? Well, I mean, I think I mentioned earlier what the intention was. We'll see what happens, but he would love to fight Usyk again. Yeah. He said that. He's made that very clear. He wants to make that fight again. And both of those fights were close fights. They were very close fights. And they were exciting fights to watch. I mean, Tyson, you've not seen him in any boring fights, have you? The fights he had with Wilder, those 3 fights, all different reasons. Yeah. They were bloody exciting fights. And the last one was one of the most exciting heavyweight fights I've ever attended. It was an unbelievable fight. You look at him, in the fights he's had with Usyk, as I mentioned, all excitement. With Tyson, you've got excitement. It's going to be great. And if that big fight comes off with AJ, if it does happen, brilliant. If it doesn't, I'd love to see the Usyk fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Look now, Usyk, talking about Alexander Usyk, rumours circulating that it could be Deontay Wilder next. Do you think that? I personally do. I said, I understand it, and Deontay Wilder deserves that shot. He's been a prominent part of heavyweight boxing for the last 10 years. Whether we think he's shot, not shot, that remains to be seen. I interviewed him actually out in Dubai, and he said that there was personal problems going on in the background, which has sort of come to light. I think he's been speaking about those more in the public more recently, but he was saying, betrayal and all that sort of stuff that affected my performances. Let me prove in the ring what I've got left. It's not about that. Do you think that sometimes a fighter's the first one to know it, but the last one to admit it when it comes to... Yeah.
I've always said that. Everyone says, they're the last ones. No, they're not. They're the first.
Yeah.
You get up in the morning, whether you're the same person as you were when you went to bed.
Yeah.
You know that. You're in the ring, you're sparring. It's not just the fight, it's sparring. You've done it. You'll start getting clipped, you're getting caught and whatever. Your reflexes are slowed. You've got to start thinking, using your education, your ring craft in fighting a different way. Your legs go a bit, so you're fighting a different way. Ali did it.
Yeah.
Ali was fast on his feet.
Mayweather adapted as well.
And some are not. Some can do it, but the majority of fighters are not capable of doing that for whatever reason. But they know, but they won't admit it. Then the thing is, for the people around them, to encourage them to retire when it's the right moment, because they're the ones who know. The trainer knows better than anybody. The trainer's with him. Your trainer's with you day in, day out. He's the closest to you. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he should know better than anybody. If he doesn't know, then he ain't worth his salt.
Would you like to see that fight, Usyk versus Wilder? Look, when we're talking about legacies and modern eras and generational fights, you go, it's sort of one of the fights that's missing. Like AJ Fury, that's sort of another fight as well.
Deontay's 40 years of age
40
now. He's a fit guy from that point of view. Is he the same fighter? I don't think he's the same fighter. But then again, is Usyk the same fighter? Because as much as he beat Tyson, those fights took something out of him.
Yeah.
I thought watching him in those fights, the second fight, there was a couple of things in there, which he still shows what he is, a fighting man, a fighting heart. And he certainly showed against Daniel Dubois that, he was on top of his game. He's still there. He's still the man to beat. So we will see. But if he's going to make that fight and it's going to be Deontay in the other corner, let him get it on. And I would expect Usyk to win the fight. I'd be very surprised if he didn't win the fight. But one thing about Deontay can do, he can whack.
Yeah. Let me play matchmaker for a bit here. You've had Agit Kabayel that's just come through in a great fight. He's the WBC interim champion. You've got Lawrence Okolie, who we haven't mentioned yet, and he's a danger in the heavyweight division. He's a different fighter to what he was at cruiserweight. He's willing to step up for anyone.
To make the weight. No. He's a heavyweight now.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that a fight that we could see? Could you see, whilst they're waiting to see what happens with this world title, and whether Agit gets the shot or not, whether Lawrence does or not, they're the 1 and 2 in the division. Is that a fight?
All those fights are possible. They're all possible. And a lot of this depends on what Usyk's going to do. That's the bottom line of it.
How long has he got, Frank?
He's got to make these mandatories. He's vacated his belt rather than do the WBO, as we know. So the next one in, I think, is the BC. They're giving him time out to talk about making this fight with Wilder. We'll see what happens. But then after that, he's going to have to defend or vacate.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting times in the heavyweight division.
It's great times, great fights to be made. But we're not going to sit around waiting for things to happen. We'll make them happen. Yeah. We will make them happen like we're doing. We've delivered some great heavyweight fights over the last few years. And that's what we're going to continue to do. We've invested heavily in it. Didn't just happen overnight. We thought about it a lot. Daniel Dubois, believe it or not, has been with us for 10 years now.
Yeah, I know, it's incredible.
Moses has been with us for 4 years.
Where do you go with Daniel? Like someone like Daniel, you look at him and you go, he's a danger to anyone, and he's got a phenomenal punch, bro. I saw him up close and personal with Don Charles when he was with John. I was in the gym a lot with them, so I know a lot about Daniel, his makeup, his character, and all of that. You go, without a belt, he's the sort of fighter that becomes a chairman of the Who Needs Him, Who Wants Him club because he's that dangerous. Now, so where do you go with him there? Like, because he's got a world ranking still.
He's got a world ranking, and he's in the top 5, and he'll fight again.
Yeah.
He'll have a big fight, which will be, I hope, in April. He'll have a big fight, and we'll go from there. I think he struggled with Usyk because Usyk was a southpaw. For some reason, he struggled.
Some fighters are like that.
Yeah,
There's
some fighters, he just, that was my watching the fight. And I thought early on in the fight he was doing okay, and then he just wasn't in the fight anymore.
Yeah.
And he stepped it up, Alex and done a job and done, and hats off to him. But Daniel, he's still a young man as far as the heavyweight's concerned. He's 28.
Yeah. Do you expect these heavyweight titles to fragment and there'll be opportunity obviously for these guys? We could have 3 or 4 different world.
I think they'll fragment, and I think they'll come back together again, because what do we want to see? We want to see the best fighting the best. And if 2 guys or 3 guys have got world titles and we can make those fights happen, we will make them happen.
Yeah. Frank, we're in the boardroom here, right? And I've got to talk about it while we're here. You've got Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay everywhere. You've got it in your office as well. The memorabilia is quite incredible. Is that one of the gowns that you actually wore, by the way?
Yeah.
That is?
Yeah.
Did you have a relationship with him at all?
Well, my Uncle Bob, my dad, and my Uncle Bob's partner was a guy called Albert Dimes. They had a tremendous relationship with Chris Dundee.
Right.
And he promoted the Ali Liston fights.
Oh, wow.
And and Angelo obviously was his brother. He brought him over, and I remember when I was a kid, he came over. I was probably about 12 at the time, and I met him. And he was in Frith Street, where they had a betting office opposite Ronnie Scott's.
Right.
And I met him there. Met Ali and Chris. And Chris, when I started off in boxing, I'm talking about unlicensed. Well, not licensed by the board. They were licensed, but not my. Chris was my agent, and he worked for me in America.
Wow.
So, and he was these guys were genius at boxing. They were proper boxing people. His brother was a boxer, very good boxer, and Angelo was obviously a good trainer. Chris knew his boxing backwards, and over the years he worked with me, and that was that. So if you've got people, you're working with people like that, and you don't learn, you're never going to learn.
That's incredible. So your birthday coming up, by the way, February 28th. Yeah. I saw that. 50 years you've been in the game now. This is your 50th year in the game. Your first show was when you was 24. Was Lenny McLean versus Roy Shaw? Was that right?
Lenny McLean.
Was that Finsbury Park or something?
No, my first show was Lenny McLean against Solly Francis, who was from Ilford. Right. Against Lenny, and that was at Finsbury Park Astoria, or the Rainbow as it became, which was an old venue. And I did that fight. I didn't start off to do it. I'd done it because Lenny was fighting Roy Shaw in a place called Sinatra's, spelt with a C, right, in Croydon, a nightclub. And he was my Uncle Bob on my Aunt Kathy, which is his wife. Lenny was on that side of the family, the McLeans. She was a McLean. Yeah. And Lenny, we went first of all, we went to see Lenny fight his first fight at Sinatra's against Roy Shaw, just as punters went there. I didn't get on with Lenny. Lenny was a bit of a bully. He was a big lump. He was a big lump when he was a kid, but he was a bit of a bully, and I had a few ups with him when I was younger. And we went to Sinatra's, and he came out and he caught Roy Shaw with a shot, and Roy Shaw was all over the place, and he never threw another punch. Yeah. And they weren't, Roy Shaw was a former fighter. Mickey Duff, I think, managed him for a while. Yeah. And then he went to prison for 10 years or whatever it was. And then Lenny just went up on the corner of the rope, put his arms up like that and went, go on then. Yeah. I'm like, what? And then Roy Shaw hit him about 20 times. Eventually he just fell down the ropes. So what on earth was that all about? Anyway, afterwards we went back to the dressing room, and my Uncle Bob bollocked the life out of me. He said, what's the matter with you? Would you let somebody, only had a right go at him anyway, that was it. About 6 months later, he goes to see my uncle, and Bob and I were partners. We had machine business in pubs, and I had a couple of nightclubs and things. And he said to Bob, they made a rematch. And the week of this fight, they said if he gets beat, he won't get out of the place.
Right.
So anyway, on the night of the fight, his cornerman, because Bob made him train with Freddie Hill, who looks after the Finnegans. Great trainer, Freddie Hill.
Yeah.
But obviously because of border control, he couldn't go in the corner. So on the night, his cornerman was Johnny Wall, who's another cousin of mine,
Right.
a second cousin of mine, who was a good fighter, good light heavyweight. Him, my Uncle Bob and me.
Right. So was you related to Lenny McLean though? Was your cousin's?
His second cousin, he was on my uncle's.
Jamie, his son, was a good friend of mine. I can't remember this conversation before.
I don't know, his kid went on him. Anyway, so that was what happened. So on the night we was in there, he won the fight, then we were going to make the third fight, the rubber match between them. And because they were going to promote it, I had no interest in it, and they said that they offered him stupid money, and I sort of went to this meeting only with my uncle. I didn't go there to talk or anything. And there was a fella called Joey Pyle, Alex Steen, and older guys, and they offered this stupid money. My uncle was like that, and Lenny didn't. And I just said to him, "Pay him proper money." And they went, and my uncle looked at me because I'm not supposed to be saying anything. And I said to him, "We'll give you that. We'll put it on. We'll give you that." And they went, I said, "No." Anyway, it went all out of house. And then when I went out, my uncle said to me, What'd you say that? What do you mean we're promoting? So I said, "I don't know." I said, we're promoting it. So that's what we did.
And that's how you fell into it?
And that is how I got into it, purely by accident.
Yeah, that's quite incredible. But you obviously got the bug from that.
I loved it. I mean, once I got in it, because it was so competitive, and remember, I'm in my 20s. The guys who are running this, they're like older, like in their 40s, and there are a few of them are the chaps. And I loved all that, didn't I? Had some of that, and we had it was a bit of fun. Then obviously I formed our own association, National Boxing Council, which was against the border control. And eventually the board asked me to take a licence out, and that's what I did.
Oh wow! I mean, over a 50-year career, Frank, and you've been involved with every fighter, literally everyone. You look at that. You've had your ups, and you must have had some tough times through that 50 years as well.
But life's like that, isn't
it? Absolutely.
Life's like that.
How do you bounce back?
If you don't, how do you bounce back if you're a fighter?
Yeah.
Get on with it. You don't know what good times are unless you have bad times. And and you appreciate and learn lessons in life. And
did you ever?
I believe in cycles as well.
Yeah.
I believe that things happen for a reason, and you learn from it, and you go on to the next thing. And all I ever do, I don't worry about what anyone else is doing. I worry about what we're doing.
Did you ever reach the point when you go you get into a situation and you go, "This is going to be tough to get out of. I don't know how we get out of this." Obviously, you bounce back and you're now top promoter. Again, you're running things out there. But was there ever a point that, what was the lowest point?
What, my lowest point?
Yeah, as in promotion, in promoting.
Getting shot.
Yeah.
Because I built London Arena, or put a lot of money into that. It was the first purpose-built arena in London, built for God knows 50 odd years, 12,500 seat indoor arena, biggest indoor arena back then. That was in 88. We started building. Yeah, 88. Building that. I had a couple of other a couple of other public companies I was involved with, and I was doing extremely well. And I'd just done a deal, excuse me, because London Arena was in Docklands, right, more or less next to, not far from Canary Wharf. And at that time, when we built it, we were told all the infrastructure was going to be in there, which it wasn't. We were like pioneers, got in there before. Interest rate went to 20%. 16%, and if you was borrowing off the banks, which we were, he's 4% over. I had a truckload of money, my own money in there, and personal guarantees, and cut a long story short, I got shot. And I'd signed a deal with a bank and had an agreement with a conglomerate of banks who were going to buy 49% of the arena in those days. And they were buying it for £40 million. Back then it's a lot of money now, but it's huge money back then. And that would have been, that would have been it. And I got shot, and obviously they were all like, "What's all that about?" And they all disappeared. And I had to discharge myself from hospital and get myself back in the swing. I obviously weren't promoted. I had to get back. A few of the rats jumped ship.
So you discharged yourself from hospital after being shot?
Yeah, and then
How quickly after was that?
I was probably come out of hospital about 6 or 7 days after it.
Wow.
And I got I had to get back in to show that I was about, because everyone get confidence in what we were doing.
Just so people know, Frank, it weren't a skim either, was it? You got
it hit me there.
Yeah. So that must have been so close to the heart, that.
Well, it was. It was only I was at an angle. If I weren't at the angle, then it wouldn't have happened. Yeah.
Wow. Did that change your outlook on life, that?
Yeah, I thought I'd better learn how to duck.
Oh, brilliant. Frank, honestly, it's been fantastic you letting us in here, and we're going to go and have a little trip into the office. I know you've got other stuff to do now, but thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely amazing. Getting into the backstory.
Look what you went through.
Yeah, thank you so much, mate. Yeah, live to tell the tale.
You did, and how you come out of it, and what life you've made for yourself.
Brilliant. Thank you. Cheers, Frank.